Indeed, Bruce. Thank you very much. And, normally in this time slot in this program, we like to talk about serious political matters, and all of these gentlemen have been on this program doing that in the past. Today, we're going to dispense with the serious politics of the day and talk about the reason we're here, which is the celebration of 50 years of local television news. And I'm joined by a cluster of our maritime members of Parliament, beginning with the Minister of National Defence, Peter MacKay, Mark Eiking, Member of Parliament for Sydney, Victoria, Geoff Regan of Halifax West, Brian Murphy of Moncton, and Greg Thompson, who, of course, is Minister of Veterans Affairs. Gentlemen, good of you all to come to our party. Glad to have you. Thank you very much. And let's talk a little bit. You grew up, of course, Minister, watching CTV on CJCB TV in Sydney. And what memories of local television do you have from your Pictou County childhood?
I grew up watching you. I can't say it was 50 years, but it had to be close. And I still have to stop myself from calling it ATV. But, for news, weather, and sports, live at 5, I mean, it was such a staple in our household. And it gives that good local angle. It keeps you real. It reminds you of those local stories that are important in your community, and I think that's the great value of having a national network like CTV, but having those regional ties and those regional broadcasts really do the trick for places like Atlantic Canada.
CJCB Television, of course, was a charter member from 1954. The Nathanson signed on CJCB Television in Sydney.
Yes, I was not too long ago. I was talking to North Nathanson, and the history is phenomenal. In Cape Breton, and we're quite proud of the pioneering that they did, and even the first color TV, the station that they had in 1974, and we have so many people that grew up with CJCB ATV. Remember Aunt Terry, and these people did the local content, and they made that happen, and all the way through. Bill Jessam, he's Cape Bretoner, so
one of the greats of maritime broadcasting.
So there's a lot of inspiration and pioneering that came right out of Cape Breton, and we're proud of it.
And of course, beyond the political connections to television, Mr. Regan, there's some personal connections in the Regan clan to our television station.
That's for sure, Steve. Of course, with my sister Nancy and my wife Kelly, who worked with you at ATV as it then was. But I'm slightly older than Peter. I go back to remembering Fire Chief Murray and Kindness Corner. So there were many great programs over the years, and as you say, regional TV is really important from our point of view in terms of getting our messages across and making sure people in the region know what's happening here.
And of course, CJCH Halifax was an original CTV station, as was CKCW Moncton, which I remember you and I growing up, Brian Murphy, as LTV back in the old days of black and white.
I do. I remember as well. CKCW's founder was a neighbor of mine, Fred Lyons, and Steve, you and I are the same age, and we know that Irish politician expression that all politics is local, all news is local, and we've counted on CKCW and ATV and CTV to be the local voice for the people of Greater Moncton.
It's interesting, too, coming as you do, Minister, from the western part of New Brunswick, the rural Maritimes, the special connection that local news has to the rural communities we serve in particular.
Well, you people do a good job, Steve. I mean, guys like Mike Cameron and Andy Campbell, I mean, they're on the scene in some of these rural areas and get coverage where other people... Other networks don't, if you will. They're on the ground and they're always there on issues that are important to us. And some of the big issues in southwestern New Brunswick, like the Agent Orange issue on Base Gagetown, Andy did a great job of that. Mike Cameron did a great job on the LNG, our position we took on Passamaquoddy Bay, issues like that. So they're always there, and we see those little Hondas running around with the CTV logo all throughout Atlantic Canada, especially in Brunswick Southwest, so we're really pleased to have you on the ground.
Certainly a special role that we're playing, I think now more so than ever, involves our coverage of our local people who are in Afghanistan. It's no secret that Maritimers are disproportionately represented in the armed forces and in the ranks of the veterans, and I wonder, Minister, what role do you see local television playing in bringing that story home?
Well, it is an international story, as you say, and we do have, while 9% of the national population come from Atlantic Canada, 24% of the armed forces are made up of people from Atlantic Canada. So you're right, there's a strong tradition there, and those stories are so important. People want to know what's happening in Afghanistan. It affects them, their families, their loved ones. Bringing that story home, making it very real, and giving them the information that they need about their loved ones, what's happening in a theater, what's happening with the Canadian Forces, the political debate, of course, that accompanies that here in Ottawa and across the country. I think CTV's coverage of that is exceptionally important and very personal, and something that resonates strongly throughout Atlantic Canada, as does that military tradition you speak of.
Same sort of question, Minister, but particularly regarding veterans. I mean, veterans issues are particularly disproportionately important in our region as well.
Well, they are, because again, as Peter mentioned, a high number of individuals that volunteered and were part of World War II and are still out there, that huge community. And of course, you saw that, Steve, when you hosted one of our Supporter Troops Day in St. John last fall, rainy day, and just a showing of how many people come out. And again, thank you for that coverage. It's important for us, it's important for the troops, and important for that fraternity of older soldiers that sacrifice so much for our country.
One other little thing I'd like to mention is a cause that's near and dear to our heart at ATV, CTV in Atlantic Canada, and that's our Christmas Daddies broadcasts, which continue from our Moncton and Sydney and Halifax stations, and all of you, I think, at one time or another have a part in that as well. But the CJCB TV Christmas Daddies is a pretty special show.
It sure is, and it's that connecting with of course, a great cause, and with all the local talent and people stepping up to the plate and watching the little kids putting $5 on the screen, and I think it's one of the best things that ATV is doing, and it shows the rest of the country, not only a network like yours, how they can step up to the plate and help, but it's also how the community can work with you, and all your people work with them.
And it is $5 at a time, right?
That's right. A person who was a great big part of that show in Sydney, of course, was our dear friend Heather Proudfoot, who we all miss very, very much.
Indeed we do. Thank you, Geoff. And Brian, final word to you. The Christmas Daddies was a tradition that we imported into New Brunswick back in the early 70s.
Absolutely. Well, Moncton's the great hub of the Maritime, Steve. You can't get the old mayor out of me. Draws more concert goers than Halifax, and we drew the PE Islanders over to Moncton for the Christmas Daddies.
On this side we have the Eagles. On this side we have, or do we have Sir Paul McCartney? We'll find out. Gentlemen, you're all going to all those concerts and buying tickets, I'm sure. But gentlemen, it's wonderful to celebrate with us here today. We appreciate your coming. Peter McKay, Mark Eiking, Geoff Regan, Brian Murphy, and Greg Thompson. All right, Bruce. Yeah, great to be here. We're having a lot of fun. Can you tell?
I can tell, yeah.